Welcome everybody to another video. I am Shotway48 and bringing to you more information on My Hero Gaming Season 6 Chapter 371. And of course, we noticed that, we've seen Shoji's face and we noticed that chaos is going with him and Spinner. Spinner got a new core, yada yada yada. 1-4 gave it to him, we know that for sure. And it's still on the, continuing on with the relationship, what they're, actually doing. And things are complicated this chapter, but it's very interesting to understand what's going on here. So yeah, so let's go and check out what's this information of chapter 371, guys. Let's do this.
Alright, so we got another interesting chapter here, and this is coming off of the end of the previous, where we saw Shoji facing down against Spinner and his metamorphic army, where he was revealing his face for the first time, and we saw that he had scars on it. But he was also kind of like reprimanding everyone and telling them like, hey, you're no better than the ones that you're fighting against here, because you're putting all of these innocent lives of the people in the hospital at risk just so you can try to get Kurogiri back for a cause that's not even really valid to the inherent one that you have in the first place, just essentially being pawns of All for One, although it's not directly said. The chapter begins with Spinner about what Shoji asks regarding the hospital. Still very confused, Kota hears his friend's voice, and some mutants comment on the scar he has on his mouth, but this doesn't shake their determination and they continue to cheer for Spinner. However, all Spinner can say in response is, no idea. The mutants are confused, but the Paranormal Liberation Front General manages to make it sound like he's commenting on the massacre. They accept the explanation and continue fighting. So yeah, Spinner's saying no idea because he's like kind of like zonked down at the moment because of whatever he did to him, and we're actually finding out exactly what he did to him in this chapter. Shoji tells Spinner that this attack will set their cause back by 30 years. Spinner gets angry, and we see a brief flashback of All for One giving him quirks such as rigidity and scale armor, and between these memories he remembers Shigaraki saying that he also used to play League of Legends. Okay, so that's really interesting. I did not expect that. So apparently All for One, if I'm reading this correctly, gave him 2 quirks, which means that Spinner now has 3 quirks. Yes, he has his inherent gecko quirk, but then he also gave him rigidity, which I guess is the quirk that makes him giant, and then scale armor, which is pretty self-explanatory. And like I said, that's really interesting to me because like I was already a little thrown off by All for One just giving others just 1 extra quirk, because we saw that he was able to do that to Nagan. Now he's giving like people 2 extra quirks, and that's a little crazy. And maybe this is why Spinner is all, zonked out, because he's like almost becoming a Nomu at this point, because it was revealed, way back at the beginning of the series that Yujiko had to create and alter the Nomus in the way that they are so that they were capable of having multiple quirks, because apparently you just can't handle it if you have like multiple quirks. Don't quote me on that. There's not an exact science to this yet and somebody getting multiple quirks as far as I know, but you definitely can't just be a normal person for the most part and have multiple ones, and I think that's why Spinner is becoming like this. But it also doesn't necessarily explain why he's like so subservient to All for One. There could be something extra in there as well. But first, let's talk about the sponsor of this video, NordVPN. So a VPN stands for Virtual Private Network. It's a service that protects your internet connection and privacy online. It creates an encrypted tunnel for your data, protects your online identity by hiding your IP address, and allows you to use public Wi-Fi hotspots safely. Guys, seriously, this is something that we don't take too seriously, and it's using public Wi-Fi. Any day now, some random hacker could be on the same public Wi-Fi as you and steal all of your information, and your life is pretty much screwed. That's why whenever I go to a place that I know where I'm going to have to use public Wi-Fi, such as the airport or going on an airplane, I absolutely use NordVPN because it protects me. But not only that, there's other benefits to NordVPN as well, such as getting a game that isn't available in your country. You can simply just change your virtual location and buy it. Same thing with TV, movies, or other content. Looking for that special anime that's only in Japan? Well, just change your location to Japan. So guys, if you're looking to get the amazingly strong NordVPN, please check out the link in my description, or you can use code ZONIN because they're having the biggest sale this year yet. Because when you get NordVPN, you're going to get an additional 4 months free. And it's also risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Thanks, guys. But also him mentioning here that he remembers Shigaraki saying that he also used to play League of Legends. Obviously, he's not literally saying League of Legends. It's going to be like some play on it. But I really like this aspect because some of you definitely remember that the first version of Shigaraki, like before the Villain Academia, or before he triumphed over Overhaul, Shigaraki was portrayed as what they called him in the series as like a man-child. Like, considering that he had such severe trauma at a young age and was like immediately taken in under All For One and Yujiko and was raised by them after that to, become his successor. He had like arrested development as a result, kind of like everyone on Twitter. And the way that he spoke and the way that he acted was like kind of bratty, and he related a lot of things to like games and how games were. And like I said, this was before he had like a big character arc coming out of the My Villain Academia, where he really matured a lot, even his voice changed, and he took on more of a serious leader role. But we knew that he had played games and stuff before that point. And I don't know if we necessarily see it directly in the manga. I know we see him in front of a computer screen. And we also know that Spinner is like a gamer too, because we saw in like one of his flashbacks that, he kind of like became a recluse because of the prejudice that he would face because, him being a heteromorph, and he would just kind of, be hikikomori, kind of, like the Japanese shut-in and just play video games all day or whatever to escape from society. And this is one of the big reasons why he related to Shigaraki, because they can relate on those things, but also the fact that Shigaraki accepted Spinner for who he was, something that he never really had before that point. That's when Spinner regains his composure and attacks Shoji, back while huge scales come out of his body. The strike sends Shoji flying and Kota shouts his name. He then starts thinking about the day when Shoji showed his face to the class and talked about his past. So now we're going to go into this extended flashback with Shoji talking to Class 1A, because apparently he showed his face to them before. He lived in a small village and his parents' arms weren't like his, so he was the only one considered tainted blood. He says that Tokoyami and Kota, who grew up in big cities, may think that things like these are in the past, but violent people like this still exist. So yeah, we were talking about this in the previous review. But in the My Hero world, cities are just like ours. They're, more progressive, more accepting of different people, but the rural, like country areas are very conservative and not accepting. So there's like this divide in the heteromorphs, like the ones who grew up being accepted in the cities more or less and not facing prejudice, as to where the ones who grew up outside of them, where they faced a lot of prejudice. Mineta remembers when he called them an octopus way back in the first quirk test. He apologizes, but Shoji says that his hero name is Tentacle, and that he himself watches stuff like Ranking of the Heroes who looks like villains, so he's not bothered by it. He says that these scars and the fact that he is a mutant give off a certain image, so he wears the mask so that people don't think he's vengeful. Tokoyami says that he's strong for putting up with all this. Shoji replies that he just can't forget all the bad things that have happened, but instead of thinking about that, he prefers to focus on the one time he was glad to have his body. We then see a flashback of him saving a little girl from drowning using one of his arms. Kirishima, Mina, and Kaminari start crying because this is his only happy memory and jump into a hug, saying that they will create many more from now on. Kota, Tsuyu, and Mineta also approach him, and Shoji hugs them all. Shoji smiles from his friend's kindness and says that while he doesn't think centuries of prejudice will be over in their generation, he'll continue the efforts of those who came before him. He'll become the coolest hero and pass his good memory to the next generation. Cut back to the present, and Shoji shouts that he too has suffered violence and that the attacks on them will never be justified. But he says that there has to be another way, and remembers the giant civilian, saying that she was kicked out from the shelters for being a mutant. Oh, so that's kind of sad. I guess he's referring to the big fox lady. Spinner screams out of control, saying that he doesn't care about any of this. Shoji says that they need to think about how to use their anger, because they know how it feels to be hurt. The Paranormal Liberation Front general tries to interrupt, but Kota sends several birds in his direction. So when they were talking about the general here, I'm pretty sure they're referring to the guy who was wearing the hooded mask thing, but now he has like the claw
that's
face
what he looks like
thing going on. I guess this is going to be Kota's final opponent, maybe. He tells him not to laugh at Shoji, and we see that his appearance has changed. There are more spikes coming out of his head. Shoji grows several eyes on his arms and twists them, preparing to attack. Spinner calls him gross, and he says, "Yep, and that's me." End of chapter. So yeah, I guess we're going into the final sequence of this fight in the next chapter, because it seems like this is going to be Shoji's big attack. I don't know what the purpose of the eyes are, but I'm sure it looks pretty cool. But yeah, that's it for this.
Alright guys, that's probably some information was going on in 371 spoilers. I'm honestly feel bad the way Shoji is, because the way he did in the past was, pretty, a bit bad for him. But everything's gonna be bad in the past, and there'll be some good ones, maybe some bad ones. But you know, I mean, think about it. If I was Shoji and everyone started treating me bad because, I have like a scar on my face and I don't want people looking at it. I mean, I'll be. I mean, I wouldn't care, because I have a quirk, and being that I'm a little bit different from the humans, just because I'm not human don't mean I should be able to fit in, because I should be fit in because I'm part of the hero society. I have a quirk, so I can use it to help people. So yeah. But it doesn't look too bad. I mean, this chapter is very interesting. Not much about Shigaraki, but still. But this all is between Spinner and Shoji's relationship with one another, and they got pretty much do something about this to stop Spinner, because if Spinner actually succeeds at freeing Kogiri, then it's gonna be bad news for the heroes. So I want to see what's gonna happen next. I'm looking forward to it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for today's video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Stay tuned for more. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Peace out.